Hello and welcome back to the Joyful Soul Creates. Charlotte here, and this week I'm actually managing to get a video out for Marvelous Monday Crafting Crew. I'm doing Call Me Crafty Al's SheetLoad of cards for September. If you're not familiar with the SheetLoad of cards, I will have a link to her channel later on in the video up in my iCards, so be sure to check that out. But this time her SheetLoad of cards sketch shows how to make 6 slimline designs. You need 2 12x12 pattern papers and some other papers just for completing it. And I also, at the end of this video, do have a bonus card from some of the leftover pieces I had, so make sure to stick around for that. The papers I am using are from Love from Lizi's April 2020 card kit, which I never got around to using. They are also from the Simple Stories I Am collection. So if you didn't get Love from Lizi's kit, you can buy that Simple Stories collection and you will be able to recreate these cards if you'd like. So I will have links to all those products down below. For the most part, I'm going to zoom through showing how I made these, but I have slowed down here because I messed up. I want my blank panels to be at the top of the card and the pattern paper ones at the bottom. But on this card, I started sticking the blank panel at the bottom and realised when I had it almost completely stuck down that that wasn't what I wanted. So luckily, I hadn't completely removed the backing paper, and I was able to kind of use my bone folder to push it back under most of it, and then just very, very, very carefully pry it off the rest of the way, and it came off fairly well. There was a little bit of tearing, but most of this is going to be covered up with my panel anyway, so that didn't matter too much. That bit of the very edge I did repair with my Tombow Mono multi-liquid glue, just to hold the flappy piece back down and make it look whole, just as that very edge piece is going to be visible. So I thought it was best to repair it, and here you can see how I did that. When I had the little piece in place, I did burnish it down with my bone folder to make it nice and flat, and you do want to make sure you don't use too much liquid glue here, because otherwise that may well make the card bumpy, which you don't want. So with that fixed, and luckily my purple piece wasn't too warped from pulling it up either, I was able to just continue with getting all the pieces stuck down. And then here you can see how it looks when the piece is in place. You can very slightly see it, but I think anyone who doesn't know it's there wouldn't notice it. So then I'll speed up the video again and continue making the cards. You can see that I'm basically working a card at a time, getting the panels stuck down. One tip for doing this kind of mass production is get the elements ready before you start. So I have all my pieces cut down according to Alicia's instructions. I have double-sided tape on the back of all of them, and then I'm just using my reverse tweezers to help lift up the backing paper on the tape and get those pieces into place. One thing I didn't do prior to starting filming was add adhesive to the strips that are going to go along the center of that focal panel area. That's because I'm going to be heat embossing on these, and I am going to be doing that on camera, and I didn't want to have the adhesive on prior to heat embossing just because the heat of the heat embossing would affect the tape on the back, so it's best to add the adhesive after doing that. I found lining all the pieces up for this was fairly easy, particularly the pink one. You can use the pattern quite easily to position the green portion on top of that. The dark green portion, incidentally, is card from my stash, whereas all the other cards are, as I said, from the Love from Lizi kit, including the papers I used for the card bases. Having got the final of the 6 cards assembled, I'm just going to quickly show you the pieces I have left over. And so I have some of that green card that I used for my mats left. I have a few pieces of the pattern paper, and I have some bits of each of the coloured card that I used for my card bases. And as I said, I will be using some of those to make another card at the end of this video. So now I'm going to take all the sentiment strips. So there's obviously 6 of these, 1 for each card, and I'm using the Love from Lizi stamp set that came in that same kit. This stamp set is called Simply Amazing, and the sentiment with the word fabulous on it, I think it says "you're nothing short of fabulous," fit perfectly on this little strip. Incidentally, these strips are actually slightly smaller than in the original sketch because my dark green paper is an A4 size rather than the 8.5 by 11 size, so I did have to make some very slight adjustments, but nothing too major. So I stamped each of those with my embossing ink and added embossing powder. I'm using white embossing powder and then heat setting all of them at once. I did manage to blow one of them on top of one of the other ones, so I had to re-stamp that one, which wasn't difficult at all. I just brushed the embossing powder off, placed it back in my MISTI, re-stamped with the embossing ink, and then I was able to heat set that as well. I then used my microfiber cloth just to wipe the anti-static powder off of the strips, and then I'm going to go through and add each of those onto a card base. Obviously they're all exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which one goes to which card base. And for each card I'm finishing off the design with some ephemera from the card kit or the collection, and I did pick these in advance as well. So I'm just adhering those into place with a Tombow Monomulti liquid glue. I'm planning on listing these cards as a set of encouragement cards over on my Etsy store, and the little extra card that I make at the end will be a freebie that I will send in with them to whoever ends up purchasing them. And I just thought that was a nice way to use the extra pieces. Even after making that extra card, I actually have a fair few bits left, which I will show you at the end, so I could make more cards with those as well. But this sheet load of cards is a really great way to help use up papers and stuff, and as I have quite a stash of old kits that I need to work through and try and make some more space in my craft room, I think I'm going to be playing along with these in future months as well, as a way to try and work through those and just make use of what I already have. With everything stuck down, I just needed to fold the card bases, and that completed the 6 cards. Again, this is with the sheet load of cards for September 2020, and you can find all the information for that on Call Me Crafty Al's YouTube channel, as well as the information sheet for the paper sizes you need and how to cut them down to make these yourself. It's very straightforward, and she gives really great instructions for these. And this is my first month playing along with the sheet load of cards, but as I said, I think I will be playing more in future. So here's just a quick look through those cards, and then I will move those aside and we will start working on the bonus card with some of the leftover pieces. So I have these colourful pieces from the cards that I'd use as the card bases, and I can just about fit 3 of those onto my dark green card base, which I cut down from the largest piece I had left over of that. This is just about A2. The piece was actually 8¼ inches wide rather than 8.5, because as I said, it's an A4 sheet, not an 8.5 by 11 sheet. So my card is very slightly narrower than an A2 card, but not by a lot. I also went and found the bag of the other ephemera to try and work out what I wanted to decorate this design with, and I spent quite a little while playing around trying to work it out. At first I was thinking I would use the houses, but then I thought if this is going to be going together with the other cards, which are encouragement cards, I want this to be an encouragement design as well. And as I liked the flowers, I thought the keep blooming sentiment would be perfect to go with this. I wasn't sure I entirely liked just the plain paper in the background, and I thought I should try and use the patterned papers as well. So I experimented having a look at how those looked on top of the coloured pieces and decided to do that. It would help me use up more of the papers and also just adds a bit more interest to this design. I think my paper trimmer needs the blade replacing. I'm getting some kind of fuzzy edges on my cutting lately, but it's not too difficult to go through and just trim the edges of those off with my scissors. I did notice the yellow piece was slightly too tall, so I did trim that down just a smidge. If I was being careful, I probably would have double checked the sizings on all of those pieces, but my hand was getting quite achy at this point because I was doing this straight after assembling all the other ones, so I didn't want to be spending too much more time on it. And as I said, this is going to be a freebie, so whilst I want it to look nice, it doesn't have to be completely perfect. I'm then going to use my Tombow Monomulti liquid liquid glue to adhere all the layers together. If you've seen me making cards with papers and pattern papers before, you'll know I often conserve the inner portions, but I thought as I have so much paper I need to be working through, I'm going to try avoiding doing that for a while. That doesn't mean I won't be doing it at all, it just means I'm not going to be quite so obsessive, I suppose, about it, and not worry too much about using those extra pieces. I don't need to save all the little bits and pieces necessarily. So I'm adhering the yellow and purple panels first, right at the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to add the teal one in the middle. I did use my T-square ruler just to make sure I had it completely lined up, because I want those pieces to be straight relative to each other. I then laid out my ephemera pieces again just to check the positioning, and then got the sentiment piece down. And then I noticed that the florals actually kind of fit quite snugly around that sentiment in a very nice way. Like the curves of the flowers can kind of hug the sentiment, and I really liked that, so I tried to emphasize that when I was positioning things. I did have these 2 extra flowers as well, and I spent a little moment working out exactly how I wanted to position them, and used the glue again to adhere those into place. You may have noticed I made sure my flowers overhang the edge of the design. I just thought that added a bit of extra interest. So then I simply had to fold the card base, and that completed my bonus card. So that's all 7 of my cards. Here you can see what I still have left. I have 2 of the pieces of the dark green card, 2 narrow strips of pattern paper, and 2 kind of card front size pieces of the same pattern papers. I also have about card front size pieces of each of the coloured papers, and a little panel of the white, grey and black as well. Here's a final look at all of the cards I made. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to hop along with the Marvellous Monday crafting crew, be sure to click the appropriate hashtag above my title. You can also find the hashtag for Show Us Your SheetLoad there if you want to see more examples of people doing the SheetLoad of cards this month. There's a couple of other videos of mine showing on screen now if you'd like to see more from me, and you can also subscribe by clicking the subscribe button there. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!